Do you struggle with self doubt, questioning whether you have what it takes to go after that promotion, the next role, to raise your hand and truly contribute at the level you know you are capable of? Many of the clients and members of our community came to us at Executive Bound and Fearless Women at Work because their career wasn't going quite how they wanted it to go, or they had ambitions and wanted to really get to a new level of leadership that they needed support in navigating to get there. And that's exactly what we help them achieve. So I want to share with you a couple of stories of people who were in different levels of their career, different seasons in their career, and how they went about addressing and tackling the limiting beliefs, the fears, the stories that were holding them back. I want to share the story with you of one of our members who was in a senior manager role who wanted to become a director. She had interviewed 50 plus times within her organization looking for that director role. And when we started coaching together through our Fearless Leadership Mastermind, she realized that she was holding herself back because she did have an accent and she felt that that was holding her back from being considered as a senior leader in her organization. It turns out, as we explored this issue further, that that was an assumption she was making. What was at the core of her self doubt, which was, I don't know the language or don't speak the language as well as a native, was keeping her small and limiting her ability to reach out to people and to articulate her value and articulate her intentions to her mentors and sponsors within the organization who can support her in getting herself on that track toward a director role. And so here's what happened during the 6 months that we were together. As we coach, as she began to peel her onion, she uncovered her stories, all the stories she was telling herself about herself and her leadership and her environment. She discovered the fears that she had, the fear of not looking smart, the fear of not being smart enough, the fear of failure, the fear, what if my peers start looking at me differently? All of these things that were holding her back, we put them on the table. And then we began to build her up by identifying her unique value proposition. How did she uniquely contribute to her department? Factually, not, oh, I'm feeling that I do this. Nope. What do you actually do? And when we started to break that down and she began to get this boost of confidence, she realized, I have what it takes to be a director. I have what it takes to take the reins and create strategy and lead my teams to implement that strategy, regardless of my accent. My accent just happens to be there, but there's people with accents from everywhere. Usually here in the States, if we hear someone from an English with an English accent, we're like, "Oh, that sounds so sophisticated." Or someone with a French accent, "Oui, oui, that sounds magnifique." So if you have a Spanish accent, it may not be as whatever you want to call it. As long as people can understand what you're saying, it really doesn't matter that you have an accent because people within the US, since we are here in the US, we have accents depending on what region of the US we're from. And so I'm so grateful that she landed there where she realized that it's not my accent, it's my value, it's how I show up, it's how I advocate for myself. So here's how the story ended. While she was still in the program and toward the end of those 6 months, there was another opportunity for her to interview. And she was able, with our coaching and guidance, to craft her compelling stories around each of the qualifications required for this director role. We sat down and she went through what was the situation, what did I do, what was the outcome. and she had those in her back pocket. So during the interview, she was able to express her value to show them how she would do the job during the interview. And she also learned the strategy that I taught her about ensuring that her answers were brief, precise, and so she would give the other person asking questions the chance to ask all of their questions so that they would have 100% certainty that she could do the job. In our nervousness, as interviewees, we can talk and talk and talk. And when we do that, the interviewer has questions on their sheet that they never got to ask. And if they have questions because they didn't get to ask those questions and you talk too much, guess what? You're not doing yourself any good, because when they leave, they go, well, I don't know about Ginny and these questions because I never got to them. And so someone else comes in and they nail all the questions. Now this person seems to be more qualified. So all of those little things were strategies that we talked and coached around. And when she showed up at that interview, she nailed it. And today, I am glad to report that she is the director in her department and is, of course, navigating the challenges of being a director at that level, building relationships with her peers, also stepping into her role, going into a room and having the confidence to express her thoughts and ideas and to contribute. And here's what I want to say to all of you listening to this training: don't be wallpaper. You were invited to that meeting because you're a subject matter expert, and your contributions, your thought leadership is required in that meeting. That's the only reason why you're there. If you go into that meeting and you don't speak up when appropriate and in the right context, then you are wasting your time and everybody else's time. So self-doubt has many roots or sources. It's so important that you get clear on what is the source of my self-doubt. Is it my stories, my fears, my limiting beliefs about myself and others or my environment? Because if it's one of those, we have to take care of that. Otherwise, your potential is at risk. What does that mean? That you will never know what you could have achieved. You will never know how far and how much of your talent, of your gift, you could actually bring forward, because you never gave yourself the chance. So we want to remove the assumptions, the limiting beliefs, the stories, the fears, and let your black diamond inside of you shine. Because all of us have that black diamond inside of us. And some of us will never discover what it is because we have become so small that we haven't allowed our gifts to flourish inside of us. So that's our job. To me, our mission in this lifetime is to remove the gunk so we can let our black diamond rise and shine for all to see. Most importantly, for you to see and for all of us to benefit from seeing it. With that, I want to invite you to join us at the Fearless Leadership Masterclass. If you're watching this before May 15th, I want to invite you to go to the fearlessleadershipmasterclass.com and save your VIP seat, because we're going to talk about excelling in your career and conquering self-doubt. We want to empower you, empower her to conquer self-doubt and squash all these limitations, fears, stories, etc., that we are living with, and to really show up for yourself. You can do that as soon as possible, and I will see you at the masterclass. Live with purpose, live with joy.